You've reported on the risk that can happen in appointing too many inexperienced or sort of partisan brawlers to cabinet posts. My first question is simple. If Trump does get most of these people in, if there are fewer people to stand up patriotically to potentially illegal orders or radical ideas internally, then who do we look to be the guardrails in a second term?
Very important question. I remember interviewing Trump 8 years ago, long time ago, and asked him about power. And what Trump said was real power is, I don't even want to use the word, but real power is fear. That's one of Trump's techniques that he has always used, scaring people. And with these nominees who are clearly unqualified, I mean, it is a dimension of overreach and an effort to scare people, the system, not just Democrats, but Republicans, that is incredibly large. I don't think it will work, but presidents have extraordinary power, and he'll have it for 4 years, so we're going to have to wait. We see all the time
all
in
the
politics,
men, because it's men.
and Trump is overreaching here in a very dramatic way, kind of, oh yes, you know, I'm going to scare you, and I think lots of people are scared, but I think lots of people are just mobilized, not just Democrats, but some Republicans saying, wait a minute, this is a bridge, a nomination way too far.
Right, and what you're reminding everyone is that the coalitions, the intensity, the ardor are built on a range of different goals. Some people might enjoy the so-called show of Donald Trump. A lot of other people want results on the economy or immigration reform or other things. And that's hard to do if you're completely paralyzed and fixated on these cabinet issues. You say overreach. You may have seen this already. I want to play for the viewers, Bob, what Brit Hume, a longtime member of the media, Fox anchor, somewhat conservative, what he said on that point.
It's impressive, but whether it is a landslide producing a mandate is another matter. There's some counts now that say that, updated counts that say that he's slipped below 50% of the popular vote. So you have to be careful about these things. Real mandates are rare, and landslides are perhaps even rarer. The president would be wise to ignore the talk from his supporters about what an enormous mandate he has and what a great landslide he won.
That's a great.
Thinking that can lead to trouble.
Brit Hume putting it straightforward, and we'll put up the chart to remind folks, Trump improved his position this year, and it was a comeback by any stretch of the political term.
Qualified for important jobs, Justice Department, Defense Department, is the sort of self-destructive act, and it may not be intentional, but it's this Trump again who wants to frighten and scare people. That is a large pillar of his operational style, and too many Republicans are going to say, wait a minute, don't do this. Trump, what's he trying to do? I think in a way prove that he can be the imperial president. He's got all the power. He can do exactly what he wants. I think Republicans first, and a larger system in confirmation process in the Senate will say no. And it will, at some point, if this becomes a real clash, a very dramatic, no, you can't do this. You can't run government this way. You can't go when you've got to get your car fixed. You can't go to the grocery store for help. You have to go where it's needed and relevant. And that's, Republicans are saying this privately. I think they will say it out loud and very strongly. Don't defeat yourself in these initial moves.
in your previous book, which we've discussed on this program, Bob, you reported on and had many extensive conversations with Donald Trump during the pandemic. One of the things that came through was that at times he was more focused on what they call the narrative nowadays, what they used to call spin, than perhaps some of the fundamentals of what the government could do to address the crisis. Do you see any growth, learning, and change, or do you have the deeper concern looking at the initial cabinet appointments that he's not yet focused on picking the people who can actually do the work?
Oh, I don't see growth. The last year 2020 of his first presidency, I did 9 hours of interviews with him. This was the year of COVID, and he wouldn't take the warnings that were handed to him on a silver platter and do the responsible thing to protect the citizens. And this was all taped with his permission. It's out there. People can listen to it or read it, and it is a moral felony.
This is my dinner. I don't need to fight for my food.
In not mobilizing to protect the people, doing something that I in the discussions with him, I said, what's the plan? What are you going to do? Oh, it's going to go away. Don't worry. Well, it didn't go away. 1.1 million people died in this country of the virus. He was warned early that year of 2020 when there was one case, and it would have been in his interest and the interest of the entire country to just do, let's have a plan, let's do something. Instead, he walked away from it. And that also is a pattern. And this idea of these nominees is truly, utterly off the charts. And what you wonder about is his wife, Melania, does he not have somebody in his inner circle who will just say, Mr. President-elect, or they still call him Mr. President, let's count to 10 on this, and let's have a strategy that has an end point that's success, rather than a kind of accentuating the divisions in this country. He's got an opportunity. A president-elect always has an opportunity. One of the things in writing about many, many presidents for 50 years is the goodwill of the public falls on the president-elect in a way that it's very important that the president-elect understand that goodwill, and it can be mobilized, can be used to help the president fulfill his goals. But if he's just going to throw sand in the eyes of his own party and rationality, he's going to defeat himself in a way. I mean, I look at some of these people who are being put up, and there are so many people, like the current defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, somebody who has had so much experience in combat, 1-star level, 2-star level, 3-star level, 4-star level, Secretary of Defense, who has, by accounts of people down in the ranks, people in the Biden White House National Security team, done a fabulous job. Well, I don't know whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, but somebody like that can be used to help any president.
Yeah, you lay it out with great detail. We've asked you to stick around, Bob, so we're going to fit in a break. I don't know if you've heard, a lot of people talk about the in-depth podcasts these days. We're not quite a 3-hour podcast, but we are saving time, so stay with me. We'll be back with more Bob Woodward in 4 minutes.
I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Donald Trump has been very clear about his vows, very clear about what he wants to do, and he's putting in the people to try to do it. We were back with legendary journalist Bob Woodward. Bob, the president-elect spoke out this week, about journalism. We just touched in the earlier segment how you've dealt with him, reported with him, but also ended up in lawsuits with him. We all know what he's like. He said he'll give a third chance, but not a fourth. He said he, quote, doesn't want to destroy people's lives in the press. And he's also publicly talked about retribution, as you saw just there, against people who investigated him or his allies. How should journalists and the society that we are in approach this? How should we be fair, not baited into being positioned on a team or quote-unquote enemy of an administration when that's not what journalism is supposed to be, without also being asleep at the wheel when we have to cover what people say they're going to do? How do we do it?
We do it with the standard methods of very aggressive, fair-minded reporting. But there are so many things that are just hidden that don't come out. A couple of years ago, Putin was threatening in a very serious way to use a tactical nuclear weapon. How was this stopped? The Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, who has lots of experience, the White House, NSC, CIA, top intelligence person, was able to explain to President Biden, because Biden asked, who has influence with Putin? Turns out the person who has influence with potential influence with Putin is the Chinese President Xi. And so Biden called and got Xi to go public and talk privately to Putin, say, my God, do not use a tactical nuclear weapon. Should that have happened, we would be living in a completely different world now. It actually worked, and the tactical nuclear weapon was not used.
What are your plans, to the extent you can share them, and maybe you can't, but I've gotten to know you professionally over these years. You've been on the program. You don't stop working, Bob. We've noticed that. So what are you going to be working on here in this new administration's era?
Well, help me be play assignment editor. What would you think I and other reporters should really focus on?
Well, one question is Bob, if some of these appointees come in and are confirmed and they don't have a lot of governing experience, then how do we report on what they're saying at the top level? They would be, if lawfully confirmed, the head of the different agencies, and then what's going on under that level, the people doing the line work, those skirmishes, all of that, I think, is something that will be actually more important to cover than a quote-unquote traditional administration.
Yes, the covert rebellion, and I think that's exactly what will happen, particularly in the main departments, Defense Department, the Justice Department. The people, the generals and the lawyers in the Justice Department, in many cases, have been there for a long, long time. They take their job seriously, and they're not going to roll over and do something stupid. And some of these ideas seem genuinely, almost intentionally and passionately stupid. And there will be a fight, and that will be part of the story. I think some of the crazy things are just not going to happen. I know enough Republicans who are scratching their heads as much as the Democrats are. And now, what's the pipeline to Trump? Don't destroy yourself. Don't make a new presidency, impossible. That might happen, but he's going to be president according to what has happened for 4 years. President reported on 10, 11 presidents that have extraordinary power. They can do things that you would think they would not be able to do, both good and not good. So there's going to be a monitor. People in the press are going to be doing that. But I think that people who have serious positions in these very, very important departments, particularly if somebody's put in charge and confirmed who is not qualified, they're going to find some way to get the information out, or maybe even help somebody. Somebody could be unqualified. Sometimes people become presidents who are not qualified, and there is a staff and there are people who can work with them and help with them. But it is going to be blizzard time in the news business, as it should be.
Yeah, and we have work
all of this.
Work to do. Well, we will stay focused. We will rest up, and I'm honored to play a little assignment editor with you, as you put it, Bob. Thanks for being here across 2 segments. Our thanks to Bob Woodward.